Welcome to the Now. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm Ryan Haywood.
The big news here, guys. After months of campaigning by irate Call of Duty fans over the move to space with Infinite Warfare and the whole hostage situation with Modern Warfare, the game's out. The reviews are coming in, and we can finally answer the biggest question of them all. In the world, does it really suck?
And the answer so far appears to be... it kind of depends on what the basis of the answer is for. There's some pretty weird mitigating factors that might affect your opinion on the game, depending on, what's most important to you. And, we'll get to those. But first, let's see what the critics have to say.
At the moment, the game is sitting right around 81 on Metacritic. So, it's about the median score for recent entries in the franchise. Black Ops 3 averaged 78 across 3 platforms, Xbox One, PS4, and PC. Advanced Warfare came in a tiny bit higher at 81, and Ghosts brought up the rear at 75.
Of the biggest outlets, Game Informer scoring the game 9 out of 10, Polygon gives it a 8.5 out of 10, Attack of the Fanboy and Games Radar both give it a 4 out of 5, and a tiny fraction on the screen.
Teeny tiny.
Destructoid and EGM give it a 7 out of 10, GameSpot weighs in at 8 out of 10, and Time is the harshest critic with 2.5 out of 5.
Time is the harshest critic of us all.
It's true. It wears away.
Now, user review scores look a little different than that, but we'll get to those.
All right, so of the reviews, thoughts on the campaign seem to be mixed. It's a frenetic, fast-paced ride that swings between trite or surprisingly touching, depending on the reviewer. Polygon, for instance, writes that the Infinite Warfare offers the strongest writing and characters the series has seen thus far. They're believable characters with personalities and motivations, while Time was displeased with the flat treatment of all the characters.
In particular, antagonist Salem Coach, who's played by Game of Thrones Kit Harington. Time writes, he's a boogeyman on a screen, a demagogic presence that solarizes into your helmet's view screen a handful of times to spout a few platitudes before vanishing back into the generic recursions of his nihilism.
Wow. What a mouthful.
That's a lot of words. I don't know that those, they seem like just kind of pulled out there, but they're definitely words.
Like 7 pages from your word of the day calendar in one go. Don't pull any punches, Time. There you go.
Yep.
It's not the only outlet to note that there are wasted opportunities for fleshing out the characters and factions. Attack of the Fanboy notes, the problems start with the story, which features one of the most black and white conflicts in gaming history. The SDF is portrayed as space Nazis of sorts, with little motivation and a constant stream of violent rhetoric.
However, if you're in it for the action, which a lot of Call of Duty players are, there is plenty of that, and it's tied together pretty seamlessly thanks to the transitions between ship combat and boots-on-the-ground gameplay with no loading screens. The campaign being tied together via a battleship hub was helpful too. Games Radar notes, the use of the solar system jumping battleship as a home base is one of the more noticeable differences this year. Missions start and end on its bridge, creating a far more seamless feel to the action.
And one of the highlights of the new action appears to be the Jackal sequences, which comprise somewhere between a quarter to a third of the campaign missions. They're praised mostly across the board for tight controls, with GameSpot in particular finding a lot to love about them. They write, it's a thrill to chase targets through tight gaps and around columns. The most intense moments occur when enemies match your level of agility and aggression, forcing you to try to shake them off with sharp turns and salvos of diversionary flares. Call of Duty games have always had vehicles, but it's hard to recall one as involving and unforgettable as Infinite Warfare's.
High praise. Yeah. However, as with other aspects of the game, Time begs to differ, saying, events unfold too fast and relentlessly furious for thoughtful play, reducing maneuvers to defense and defense to triage. It's a shooter's exuberant but confused apprehension of arcade flight. And there they are again with the thesaurus.
I really like it, actually. It's very meditative.
It's flowery.
In addition to the core campaign missions, there are plenty of side missions available as well. Many of them Jackal-focused to add kind of additional perspective, character building, and story. Attack of the Fanboy praises these in particular, saying, these are actually some of the best parts of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, featuring more experimental objectives, including some very fun stealth sections.
Now, when it comes to completely different modes, because Infinite Warfare has an awful lot of those other modes, Zombies in Spaceland takes the bulk of the praise because it's such a departure from the rigors of war. But the main online multiplayer, which is the real jewel of the Call of Duty franchise, it does get its fair share too.
Plus, the Zombies has the Hoff.
It does. You can't really argue with the Hoff.
I mean, you could. You just have to record it, and he's drunk and has a cheeseburger.
Yeah, he has to be on the floor drunk.
On the subject of zombies in Spaceland, Games Radar says it embraces its 1980s day-glow stylings with enthusiasm and creates some laugh-out-loud chaos as you battle decaying high school jocks, undead valley girls, and honking exploding clowns.
I mean, if the exploding clowns don't honk, what's the point? Meanwhile, Attack of the Fanboys says, mixing together an all-star cast, zombies, theme parks, and tons of 80s tropes, Zombies in Spaceland really hits on a ton of things that players will find hilarious and fun.
But there's more depth to it than just decaying jocks and valley girls who need shooting.
Although they're there too.
I mean, that's everybody likes that part. Hey, take that, high school rejects. GameSpot warns, what the mode lacks in aesthetic nuance, it makes up for in strategic depth. Zombies presents a risk versus reward scenario where opening up additional sections of Spaceland as soon as possible may not always be the best strategy.
Well, I guess there's your gameplay tips. When it comes to multiplayer, the consensus is that the modes and rigs are polished and diverse, with the futuristic setting creating opportunities for creative new locales to explore and shoot stuff in. There are a few more reservations here in that the gameplay feels a little bit like more of the same, which can be a good or a bad thing depending on your outlook on Call of Duty.
Yeah, GameSpot notes, it's disappointing to miss out on the thrill of zero-G combat in a competitive online environment, especially when games like Star Wars Battlefront and Strike Vector affirm its appeal. What you have instead are the usual tournament-ready modes, a familiar playlist of match types that take no chances on new ideas.
However, Games Radar appreciated the new aspects, writing, the online action actually feels more streamlined here, using 6 character archetypes called rigs built around a range of special weapons that charge over time. Maps are tightly designed, and I found each with a selection of very obvious flashpoints for teams to clash over.
And of course, the game will feature microtransactions.
Of course it will.
Which may be more invasive than players would like, according to Polygon. Unlocking some of the epic tier guns without spending any money beyond the $60 or more you already shelled out could take weeks or even months. That feels like those who pay will have an advantage over those who don't, at least at launch.
And that brings us to a quick note that's not addressed in the reviews for PC players specifically. As it turns out, those who purchased the game through the Windows 10 store won't be able to connect with players who purchased the game through Steam, which will severely impact the experience for those players.
It's odd too, because it's not an Xbox Play Anywhere game, which would almost make that understandable if that was the case, because then it would be kept to the Xbox architecture.
Like, you know, they had that with Forza Horizon 3, and they had, you know, Recore was Play Anywhere, but this, it's not, it's just locked.
So, well, the game is actually cheaper on the Windows 10 store, but buyer be warned, if you're thinking of buying it there, you're not playing with your friends on Steam.
Not sure it's worth the value, but of course, as always, that's up to you. So, overall, the reviews indicate that the game fine. It's not amazing, but it's also not quite the dumpster fire gamers have been expecting, given the brigading that all the anti-fans have been doing across every Infinite Warfare video on YouTube or any hint of praise on social media.
However, given the sharp disconnect in reviewer scores and user reviews, we should kind of mention those.
Yes. At the moment, the game has a 57% approval rating on Steam, with many of the unhappy reviews coming from those who were, well, unhappy that Modern Warfare Remastered requires the purchase of Infinite Warfare to play. Another common theme among Steam's user reviews involves the PC port from a technical perspective, and that's a lot more serious, I think, with many noting glitches with sound, textures, bugs, and optimizations that keeps even really beefy rigs from running the game well.
What? Somehow a PC port isn't running well?
No, that never happens.
User HK Productions sums it up, saying, if you want that runs below 60 FPS and stutters throughout the course of the game, this is the game for you.
So, sounds like PC, maybe not the best and brightest platform for this game. On Metacritic, the disconnect is even more severe, with the game sporting an average around 2.8 out of 10 across the various platforms. It's about 2.5 on Xbox One, 3.3 on PS4, and 2.1 on PC.
And while the scores do tend to polarize largely to the 0 or 10 ends of the spectrum as gamers make their pleasure or displeasure extra known.
Extra known.
Yeah, you will know that I feel there is nothing good about you! Or you're all perfect. There are some fun thoughts, though.
Yeah. Peter Rasputin, who gave the game a 0 out of 10, writes, there are no major improvements from previous games. Trying to throw space in to entice the audience doesn't work. Call of Duty made one game too many, focused on the future. And that's why this game is completely unplayable.
Right. While at the other end of the spectrum, Praying Ocelot gave it a 10 because if you're like me and not played Call of Duty for a year, Infinite Warfare is a great way to jump back. The campaign is awesome and multiplayer lots of fun. It also comes packaged with the best FPS of all time, Modern Warfare 1. Don't jump on the hate bandwagon, be a real gamer, and try it for yourself.
You can't be a real gamer if you don't spend $60 on it. And then, of course, there was Maddox078 who wrote, more like an 8 than a 10, but rating it higher to offset troll reviews.
Way to be the moderate there.
Yeah.
And that's not really how scores are supposed to work.
Nope.
Maddox, or trolls,
And
but thanks.
Yeah.
I like where you were going with it.
And that's why no one takes user reviews seriously. Yeah, you gotta fix that. So, does it suck? Well, having to buy the game if all you wanted was actually Modern Warfare, then the situation does suck. But the game itself overall appears to be okay. It's not a great year to be just okay, given all the love Battlefield 1 has been getting, and even Titanfall 2 from a critical, if not commercial standpoint. Although, we'll see. Maybe if people have been waiting for these two and now go with Titanfall 2 instead. And the microtransactions do add a little bit of a shady pay-to-win undertone, but suck might be a little strong.
I mean, I will say, having gone back to back from Titanfall to Infinite Warfare, Titanfall really nails the movement system that Infinite Warfare wants so much better. The double jump, the wall runs, just the feeling of traversing the environment is so much better delivered in Titanfall.
The verticality?
Yeah, they knocked it out of the park with that, and then trying to go into Infinite Warfare and do a wall run or just like a jump, you just feel like you weigh 1,000 pounds and you're slow and just like plodding. It's
given that you're in space, it seems like the gravity should be lower.
Well, so far most of the multiplayer maps I played have been terrestrial, so I think I played one space station, but the only time the zero-G stuff happened is when you die. You even throw grenades and the grenades still fall to the floor.
Great.
And also the user interface on the loadouts is just, it's much cleaner in Titanfall, which some would argue though, cleaner also means less options.
That's true.
There's a more robust system on Infinite Warfare, but a cleaner system on Titanfall.
Yeah, regardless, it's Call of Duty over here. It's gonna sell tens of millions, and people are gonna pay for all the microtransactions to get an edge up on everyone else.
Yeah, someone will. They always do. Thinking of picking it up? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to get a better idea of all the game's modes, classes, and features, check out our Know Before You Go on the game. It'll be posted in the description and in the end card.
Yes, and for more roundups and bringing you all the verdicts on which games are worth your money, like this video and subscribe to the Know.
Now go play Titanfall instead. It does feel better. I mean, it was not bad as a multiplayer experience, and zombies is definitely cool. I haven't tried the campaign yet, but the multiplayer, do not go from Titanfall to Call of Duty.